You're listening to a portion of our conversation from episode 271, featuring the Jurassic Wire with myself, Brad Jost, and co-host Aaron Beyer. If you want to hear the full conversation, download the episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. Today, we discuss the recent article from Jurassic Outpost in regards to a Hammond Prequel story that has been pitched. What is it? Who did it? What are our thoughts on a John Hammond prequel? You'll have to stick around to find out. As always, be sure to let us know what you think, and of course, we hope you enjoy it. It's going to be short probably, but I want to get your thoughts on an article here posted from Jurassic Outpost. So, this is Hammond. They posted this article. Jack posted, independent writers pitch John Hammond prequel story. So he says just a team of independent writers have, worked with concept artists to create some imagery. There's a synopsis here for a John Hammond series. And really, there's some images, also like toy photography that's kind of blended with some other stuff. It looks pretty cool. But really, there's no information as far as like where this came from or who, how, what, why, what, I don't really know anything. There's no source or anything like that. It's just a team of writers have written something. And it does say Hammond is designed to be a limited series starting with the titular character working as a poor performer in early 1950s Petticoat Lane with his suitcase flea circus and ending with him setting out to gather a group of scientists, 2 children, and 1 unwanted lawyer to give them an adventure they'd never forget. Bringing back dinosaurs from extinction was no easy task, and Hammond chronicles the blood, sweat, tears, and determination it took to do so. So, what are your thoughts on this potentially being a thing? I don't really know what the potential is here. There's no indication. It just says that people have thought of an idea. So, I don't really know.
If you're listening to the podcast, I've just spent the last entire time he's been reading this confused, saying no. My facial expressions are disinterest.
I didn't see because I was looking at the article, so I didn't even see your face.
Watch the video, Brad. Watch it. I don't know. I'm in the Jurassic chats. I'm in the Reddits. I'm in the Facebook groups. You guys all see something in Hammond that I just don't see. I don't think Hammond is interesting before the first movie. Like, all right, movie Hammond. He runs a flea circus, which he admits is a con. So he's a con artist in the movies in his early days. The only major issues we know of in Jurassic Park before the movie are there's problems with the raptors escaping constantly, and we have to assume that the first guy we see in the movie that dies is not the first one that dies from the raptors, but like there's been a few others, and the raptors are a problem. But like overall, Jurassic Park, aside from the raptors, is running pretty good. I don't think Hammond is interesting before dinosaurs. And we see Hammond at the precipice of when dinosaurs escape. I don't know why this would be interesting. Like, I don't want to see Hammond with zoo animals. That's just old man goes to the zoo. That's not Jurassic Park.
we bought a Hammond edition. Yeah. See, here's the thing. Whenever I've talked about prequels or spin-offs, and maybe me and you have had this conversation several times. I talk about it all the time. I've been saying this for years that I would love to see a Hammond prequel, and I've pitched this on the podcast. I am not one of the 2 writers or whoever who have pitched this in some place, but this is something I've said on the podcast multiple times that like I would love to see this, but at the end of the day, I always come to the conclusion that like, but who would really want to see this? It would be, a bunch of people on Twitter, like you said, Reddit, in the chats, in the group chats, but the general public, I just don't think would care enough about Hammond.
This is something that the fans, I think they want, and it's going to be just as I don't know, man. Like, he's not Vader, all right? Like, he's not Anakin, all right? He's John Hammond. Like, at the best, he's a friendly old man. At his worst, he's a con man. He's not an interesting character to carry a series. Now, if a series I would watch with a younger Hammond, I'd be interested in a Muldoon series that takes place when he is brought onto Nublar to basically get it under control. That's something I would watch. Sure. Him basically establishing the dino trackers or the ACU, like that is something that I am all on board for.
So yeah, here's some dude, I don't know who that is, as a potential John Hammond, I guess, at his wildlife preserve.
This is some fan fiction thing that got press on.
Yeah, that's the thing. I just don't understand where or how, like, what this is. And it's an obvious idea. Like, I didn't think I was like making this up myself when I've said it on the show before, but yeah, it's just like, it kind of writes itself. You've got the flea circus. You've got, like, on the screen here, we've got he had a mini elephant.
The mini elephant in the book, right? Yeah.
About that, like, it was in the book. Yeah. And I would actually be very interested in the parallels between the wildlife preserve, because and that's where, like, Muldoon got his start, right? Down here. That would be cool. Or maybe not his start, but they worked together on this. I would love to see that.
But what what you have described here is a 2-minute synopsis. Like, this is the 2-minute teaser at the beginning of a great Muldoon series. Like, you can cover all of this. You don't need. I don't know. People act like he's like this, like The Boys or something. Like he could carry a series, but no.
I think there could be a valuable series here. So we are in complete disagreement there, but like, I just think, for outside of myself and a lot of other people within the fandom, I just don't think, like, my grandma tuning into, like, Peacock or wherever this would end up airing, even if it is a miniseries or I don't know what it eventually turns into, but like, I just don't think that the general audience would, like, care enough to be like, oh, let me watch this. And especially because I think this series, as a series or TV show, whatever, a miniseries, I think it faces a lot of issues like that, like, caring enough about Hammond, potentially being labeled a Jurassic Park thing, which inherently means I need to see dinosaurs. And when you don't see dinosaurs, or you don't see enough dinosaurs, there's a huge disappointment there. Like, I know this concept art or whatever, the toy imagery, because there's this stuff that we see is like, there's Owen toy, there's a Muldoon toy, there's like a, whatever, a mercenary toy working on setting up the park. So it's like kind of crude, but like, there's I think this is, I don't know if this is a toy. It looks like artwork of like a T-Rex at the T-Rex paddock, which, like you just said, I would love to see that stuff. But I feel like if you were to create a Hammond series, anything set within Jurassic Park, I feel like would bookend either the episodes or the series as a whole. Because I don't think you can do too much with present day Jurassic Park Hammond. We don't have Sir Richard Attenborough. He's been dead for a few years, so he's no longer with us. But like, digitally, sure, you can do that. I don't know if his estate has signed off on any kind of details, like, letting them use his likeness like that. But
I would hope not.
It just seems tricky, like, it seems tricky to have any kind of present day Hammond. And then, of course, you could recast the younger Hammond. That's no problem there. But you also got to recast like a Muldoon. You got to figure out that. There's a lot of work involved in making this go right. Like you said, he's a con man, and like, how interesting is it to see this stuff? I don't know. But I would be interested. Don't get me wrong. I would really love to see it. Please, whoever these two people are, pitch it, make it work, do it. But I just don't know what the investment, what the payoff is for Universal.
At best, like, if you merge what I want to see, which is this building of Jurassic Park, and you at best I could see the history of Hammond being good for flashback stuff, like, oh, he's breaking some moral that he like learned the lesson about in previous, and maybe you get like a quick like stint, but I don't know. People think Hammond's really interesting. I don't think Hammond is like interesting at all. Like,
Hammond is
I never have.
He's more of a villainous kind of guy, right? In the novel.
Yeah.
So many book references tonight. But do you see, if they were to make this series, would he be, more of a villainous guy? Not necessarily villainous, but like maybe like a Breaking Bad, where you're like, you sympathize with the main character even though he's doing bad things or something. Like, is that kind of what you would see here with him?
Look at this image you're showing. How could he not come across as the villain in this show? Look at that image of him conning children. Like, Hammond was not a great guy, book or movie, in his past. So, and that's his whole thing with Jurassic Park. I wanted to make something they could see and touch, something that was real, And
yeah,
I just feel like his scams of the 1930s and 40s, like, who cares? Like, really, Brad, they're gonna do an episode and you're gonna see him running a flea circus. Does that sound like really something you want to watch? I don't like.
Yes, I mean,
you're crazy, dude.
I want to see the early days of Hammond, and I think like talking about like where he came from, how he became, a rich guy, I guess, and how he figured it all out and how he got to that point is enticing to me. Like, I just don't know if that all that in between is very exciting or not. But I'm definitely interested in learning about that. I do feel like a Hammond story is more meant for a novel. I don't really think it's visually all that exciting per se.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just trying to think of like. I know we've had this conversation. I know a lot of people disagree. I know a lot of people would disagree with me in the sense that like they want to see a prequel to Jurassic Park somehow. But I think Jurassic Park is the prequel to all the other movies. Like, what in Star Wars? Okay, I want the prequel to Vader. Okay, you get him as a young child. Like, like, can anybody really walk out of that movie, like out of episode 1, and go, man, I really want the prequel to like? I mean, I guess Qui-Gon. Like, how far back do you go before it's not interesting? And I feel like this for Jurassic, it's really simple. It's before Jurassic Park.
Star Wars is currently experimenting with that, with the whole, I can't even remember what it's called. I started reading the book and then I stopped, so I don't even know. But there's an era, hundreds of years before that. I'm actually very interested in whole like Qui-Gon stories and stuff like that, like pre Phantom Menace and stuff like that. But I see that's the kind of stuff that I'm interested in. I enjoy things that don't necessarily have a ton of action, but like I'm easier to please in that sense. Like, I don't need this to be a dinosaur show.
Maybe Star Wars is a bad thing, right? Is a bad example because there
those
has
are
always
fantastical, with lightsabers and things. This is about a normal dude that made some money, invested in things, and became, I guess, a doctor. And I think the interesting part could be if there's a Lockwood portion of this, how he met him, how they started and created this park. That's interesting to me.
I would be interested in a series, even though it's been proven not true. I would be interested in a series of creating the California park, like creating the dinosaurs in the basement of that mansion and having things go very wrong in the California park. That would be cool to me. The San Diego, thing.
That could be fun. That could be fun. Like there's like there's an untold story that like they did bring dinosaurs out there and something.
That's a Hammond prequel that involves dinosaurs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, like you said, when you label this as a Jurassic Park thing and there's no dinosaurs, like, nah.
I mean, look, they're pitching dinosaurs via these images. So at least one image here has a dinosaur. So I don't know. Like, I just think it's troublesome because you can't. I don't think you could plausibly make that. I don't know. I remember watching Westworld, and what's his name? I blank on his name every time, but the Hannibal guy. What's his name? He's in that show.
I don't know.
What's his name? Oh man, I'm blanking on it. Anyway, old dude, and he's in Thor, and they did a flashback to like when he was younger. And I remember watching that and being like, oh, that's the point where I was like, I would love a Hammond prequel series. But I think it's possible. I just think it's too many problems to work out to solve in order to make it happen. It just doesn't seem very feasible.
I think of like people wanting a prequel to Superman, right? And so you get things like Smallville, and Smallville pushes the lines of like, how do you get Superman's villains in that show with Clark Kent as a teenager? And that went on for 10 years because they managed to make Clark Kent still interesting because he still has powers. He's on Earth, right? But then there was a prequel show on Sci-Fi called like Krypton. Here, Kryptonians are not interesting on Krypton. They have no powers. They are just regular people. And that show got canned. So, like, learn a lesson from that. Like, this was about Superman's grandfather. Aside from maybe creating Brainiac, is Superman's grandfather, is he interesting? I never tuned into the show. I couldn't tell you because Kryptonians without powers isn't interesting to me. And I'm a huge Superman fan. So what do I know?
I don't know. I enjoy like just personal stories, and I would like to get to the heart of the character, but I just, we've said it many times already. He's not necessarily the greatest guy, and it could be tough to watch. And I think there's too many inherent issues, and a lot of the stories I would like to see are just when you would have to visually see the Hammond that from Jurassic Park, because you wouldn't change all that much, in the timeline that I would want to see, like him with Hammond, with Lockwood. I'd like to see what happened there with Maisie and the fallout with Lockwood, stuff like that. But, we're talking like if it does get made, like miniseries or whatever season 3, something like that, like season 1 could be the flea circus era. Season 2 could be the biological preserve era. And then season 3 could be the Jurassic Park Lockwood era or something, the start.
Well, I'll tune in for season 3.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting. I just don't think it's ultimately a great idea for Universal to invest in a property where I don't know if anybody outside the fandom would care.
Right. Yeah. This feels very much like I listen to a lot of kind of funny content, and Gary Whitta will every once in a while talk about his pitch ideas. And like, it just sounds to me like when you want to pitch an idea from an old franchise, you kind of just do something like this. Like you make a fake trailer, you come up with a new synopsis, a new twist on how you would do it. It seems like that's what this is. So from what I can gather from this has no backing from Universal. This sounds to me like someone is preparing a pitch to go to Universal.
Yep. That's kind of the vibe I was getting from the article.
This is no more real than you and me writing fan fiction at this point. Like, I'm not like trying to disparage it, but like, it's not real. So like, it's weird that it's being reported on, especially on the Outpost. Like because there's no real sources. Is this just like people involved at Outpost have this cool idea they want to do, so they reported it on it so that like it could get some traction, like with fans or something?
I'm not sure who, if it is anybody there or Chaos Theorem or somewhere else like that, or a team like that. I think it does sound to me like either it was an idea that was pitched and not necessarily loved or thought of too highly, or they're getting prepared to pitch and they wanted to create hype. Either way, I think it was an idea to create traction. You see this a lot where like a story will leak out, and it's almost a lot of times it's like the studio themselves leaking out a story to maybe see what the audience is like. Are they lukewarm? Are they very hyped? Do they
want to? Here's the thing. when the story came out that Henry Cavill was not going to renew his contract, the internet collectively lost its mind that Henry Cavill wasn't going to be Superman. Is the internet collectively losing its mind that there might be a John Hammond prequel story?
That's what I feel like. It's like testing the waters, and I don't know. I mean, look, sometimes you got to give a story some time. Like,
sure,
nothing happens instantaneously every single time, but a lot of times you'll start to see, and Outpost has done this plenty of times, where like a story will be shared, and then other outlets will pick it up, and it'll become a big news story where it does create hype and excitement. I haven't seen it happen yet with this. Maybe I missed it, but I don't think so. But there's still time. So if you do want this to happen, share it around, make it hyped. I mean, we're sharing it right now. So, I'm ready. I would like to see it, but I just ultimately don't know if it's a great idea for Universal to invest money and potentially not get the return on a Jurassic Park television series or whatever this is planned to be. Look, I'm looking out for Universal. I want them to. I do want them to make Jurassic content. I do want them to make good stuff. I want to see stuff succeed. I don't know if this will, but if they got to test the waters and make it and see, I'm willing to take it. I guess I do want to see it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's one of those weird things. Like it's a interesting story. I don't know where this is coming from or who they are. And of course you don't reveal sources really or anything like that, but like there's nothing to it. And I just don't know what's going on. That's where I stand. So I do think that about wraps it up.
I think that does wrap it up. I'm excited to talk about the spoiler content.
Oh, all right. So, yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit.